It is my true honor and true pleasure to, be respectful of your time. So we are going to get going right now. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Angie Levine. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at Essanté Organics, and I am going to be bringing onto the line our wonderful founder and CEO, Mr. Michael Winninger. He is just awesome. He is a ball of energy. The minute you meet Michael, you really understand where he comes from. He kind of lets you know. His dad worked with the Wisconsin Gas Company. His mom worked part-time to help make ends meet. A lot of people can relate to that, I know. Michael learned what hard work was really early on. He worked on the family farm. He took on 2 jobs. He paid his own way through college. I mean, this guy's a hard worker. And when his brother Daniel was in high school, and when he was in high school, they found the home-based business industry. Now, these 2 guys knew absolutely nothing about business at all. The only thing they knew how to do was grow their hair long. Okay, they knew how to do that. They were in a band, and they're like, okay, yeah, sure, let's say yes to multi-level marketing. Well, they didn't even know what kind of ride they were in for. They showed up to corporate at an event with their long hair, and without a lick of business experience, and do you know what they did? They enrolled 30 people into that company. Did they have Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, cell phones, internet? No, they didn't. So I don't know what you're waiting for. Go enroll your 30 people, because here's what happened when Michael and Danny did that. They did it during momentum in the company called NuSkin, and those 30 people turned into 75,000 people within their team, and the rest was history. And what did Michael do? Did he just lay back on his laurels and, sit by the pool and have, daiquiris that are virgin daiquiris? No, he didn't. He parlayed his tens of millions of dollars earned in network marketing into a vision, a clean, green, 100% certified organic company where anyone and everyone can enjoy a tremendous level of success and time freedom, just like he did, just like the author you're about to hear from, Mr. Yarnell, did as well, right? And so Michael's passion for Essanté, his dedication to you guys, the field, it's contagious. His obsession for chemical-free living, unmatched. And we are in a company that's a force for good. We are on a mission to create a global billion-dollar brand. And make no mistake, Essanté is on its way. Essanté has been featured in so many magazines. I mean, USA, Star, Us Weekly. We've been featured in Good Morning America on television, Extra TV, The Doctors, so much. And it's because of Mr. Winninger's vision that we all have a platform to create an unmatched lifestyle of pure abundance. And so it is my pleasure to bring onto the line, it is my true honor to introduce to each and every one of you our remarkable founder and CEO, Mr. Michael Winninger.
Oh, thank you so much. And you know what? I'm just hoarse today because I've been talking to so many people, talking about Mark being on the line. And I got to say, Mark, you're with us right now, aren't you? On the line here with me? Oh, my goodness. I'm going to tell you what. See, that's how nervous. I'm a little hoarse today. I've been telling everybody because I have not had this honor. The last time, I'm even nervous. It's like the last time I've been this nervous, Mark, was like when I was on stage opening up for some of these national acts in the 80s with 30,000 people in front of you, I don't know what it is you do to me, but no, this is a great call, guys, and I got to tell you, yeah, I was pounding through college and playing music and doing everything I possibly can to make my way through, and I got involved and trust me, Mark knew who I was back in those days, and here I am sitting in some guy's house one day, and they're talking about a company called NuSkin International, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm 25 years old, I'm beautiful, what do I need this for? And really chose not to do it, and then after a few weeks taking a course on the industry and finding out some different components and how wealth is built and so on and so forth, it was unbelievable, and that's why I met Mark, and I'm just good friends with him, and we had Jerry Campese last week talking and things like that, and oh my goodness, I couldn't be more on high clouds than this night, Mark. So thank you so much for joining us, and let's get right into it. You've been extremely successful in this industry. You're an extreme international author, and let's get right down into it. How many people do you know who've been very successful in the networking industry? And I'm talking 6 to 7 figure earners.
Hundreds. And you do too. We both share the same lineage, as does Angie. We cut our teeth on a really fine company, and I blundered in a little bit earlier than you all and got a little bit more momentum. But I'll tell you what's interesting. Right after I got to the big money, to me, now this is what's interesting, but to me, $30,000 a month was big money back in '86. I'd never made that much, so I moved to Aspen, Colorado, and my whole goal was to just snow ski and hang glide and have fun. And I'm like you, I'm a musician too, and so play guitar and teach guitar lessons. And what was fascinating is I got a call from Scott DeGarmo, who was editor of Success Magazine, and they had decided that they wanted to write a column on networking, and that had never been done before. So it was a great opportunity. I felt very humbled by it, and he asked me he'd read a book that I wrote back in the 80s called Power Speaking, and he wanted to know if I would consider writing a monthly column on network marketing for Success Magazine. So I jumped at it. And what was interesting, Michael, all they wanted me to do is fly around and interview the big money people, men and women who were making over $300,000 a month, and then write an article about them. And that's what I did for 3 years. I just flew around, talked to people, and I'll tell you what shocked me. I thought I was in the upper echelon of network marketing. And by then I was at like $40,000 a month, and I thought, man, there'll never be another bad day. I'm rich. This is unbelievable. I love it. And then I started interviewing people like Dexter Yeager and Bill Britt and Sandy Ralston, people that were making over $1 million and in some cases over $2 million a month. And I realized, there was a totally different level of expertise and big money than I had even knew about. Because I was in NuSkin, and basically Claire McDermott and Craig Bryson and Craig Tilton and Richard Call, these guys were all making several $100,000 a month. They weren't making over $1 million. I didn't know that upper echelon even existed. So what I would say to your people that are listening is, you just think $100,000 or $200,000 a month is big money. Frankly, that's chump change compared to some of the people in this industry. So I don't mean to kickstart my mouth and talk too long, but you asked me one of my favorite questions. How many people do I know that make the big money? Tons and tons and tons of people. Tons of them.
Well, what do you feel the top differentiating factors between the people who are successful versus the people who are not successful in the industry?
Well, first of timing. I mean, you're dealing in a situation now where you're rolling out a very ecologically sound, non-toxic line that's good for the planet at a time when everybody's in at a very early ground floor position. And one of the things I taught in my college course for years is, if a company is beyond $10 million a month, I'm not even looking at it generally. I mean, you want to get in real early if you can. I heard Angie talk about how your objective is to create $1 billion, international brand, and that's an admirable objective, but it's those people that ride from right now to $1 billion who are going to catch that wave of momentum and make all the big money. So, one of the big differences I see is people catch timing. People get involved early. And without that component, as far as I'm concerned, Michael, and I know you and I have had this discussion for years, you're crazy. I think our industry gets a bad rap. I hear this all the time. People say, well, Yarnell, that's one of those deals where if you get in on the ground floor, you make all the big money. And I say, yeah? How'd you like to get on the ground floor? I mean, the same thing's true of Microsoft and Google bottom line, timing is the number one component of economics. I don't care what field you're in, what sector of capitalism. So I make no apologies for the fact that people who get in on the ground floor tend to make more money than the people who get in later. That's just common sense.
And I think that's true for not only people in the industry, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's true for, like Jerry was talking about last week. He goes, Mike, you have every component of $1 billion brand because we have tapped into, we created a niche, satisfying the markets and trends. We tapped into the only company doing 100% chemical-free living, focusing on live whole food nutrition inside and out. And he thinks this thing's going to be a giant just because not only for a person getting into a company, it's about a company entering the market as well in what they're doing. Don't you agree?
Well, yeah, it's a black swan, as Jerry's fond of calling it. You know, a lot of people, I mean, that heard Jerry last week, I don't think a lot of people realize. I mean, Jerry was only with one company for 25 years and then was a consultant to a lot of other companies because he's a genius when it comes to comp plan design. And basically, Jerry looks for one thing, black swans. You know, where's the black swan? So when Jerry says it's going to happen, people need to pay attention. I mean, you're talking about a guy in his 60s who's managed the assets of some of the biggest money people in the United States. So I think he's like everybody else. He looks at this industry and looks for the black swans, which I think is important.
Well, I know you yourself have you've transformed my life. You've transformed many hundreds and thousands of people's lives in this industry. And what is your most touching story? You know, someone that was in your organization that you helped. What do you think was what was the one thing that really stuck out that somebody that you helped?
You know, it's easy to tell you without equivocation. I had actually retired and moved to Switzerland. You know, I made so much money. Once I got up over $150,000 a month, it was like zippity-doo-dah every month all the way to the bank. And one of the things I think about our industry is that it's really more of a vehicle than a career. And by that I mean, I don't know what most people, if they just had the free time and the big money, they'd do what they really were put here on earth to do. And so, to me, it's kind of like, well, you know, you work real hard for a few years, you create the freedom and the wealth, and then you go figure out what you're going to do to make a difference. Well, my deal was I always wanted to be a writer. And I had been approached by what is now Random House, one of the biggest publishers, to write a book on network marketing. So I was finishing up and working on your first year in network marketing. I'd taken a train from Geneva to a place called Stade, Switzerland, called the Panoramic Express, and I was breathless. When I got there, I saw about 100 paragliders in the air, and I thought, well, I've died and gone to heaven. All these paragliders from all over Europe and the world. And boy, if I can paraglide it. So I actually went and found a realtor real quick, found an 18th century Swiss chalet, and decided to spend a year there finishing my book, Your First Year in Network Marketing. Now, that's a build-up to let you know that very few people communicated with me while I was in Stade, Switzerland. The time differences were radical. But one day I came back from paragliding, and there was the little light on my answering machine was beeping, so I knew I'd had a call. And I couldn't believe it because I seldom did. I sat down and I played a message that would really, Michael, I would say that of all the things that have happened to me in network marketing, this was the most rewarding. Back in 1989, I sponsored my maid in Aspen, Colorado, Kathy Dennison, into NuSkin. And my Kathy had never done anything. She didn't even have a GED from high school. She was cleaning my toilets for a living. She was a single parent of a teenage daughter, came out of an abusive marriage where she'd been beat up a lot. Her husband was a drunk. She was living by herself in a little tiny apartment, cleaning houses for a living. And I got her into NuSkin, and I taught her how to do the business. And to her credit, she was just an unbelievably hard-working, energetic maid. And next thing you know, she captured as much as she could in Aspen. And she came to me one day and said, "Hey, is there a bigger city? I mean, there are only 7,000 people here." And I called NuSkin, and they said, "Well, we don't have any blue diamonds in San Diego yet." So by golly, the next week she had a U-Haul pack. She moved to San Diego. She worked harder than any person I've ever sponsored. She was a maid. So I come home, and this is like, 7 years later, the light's beeping on my answering machine, and I'm in Stade, Switzerland, writing this book. I'd met Kathy in Aspen, hadn't talked to her in a while. And I played the message, and here's what it said. Kathy Dennison, my maid from 1989 in Aspen, in a quivering voice, said, "Mark, I just want you to know that an hour ago FedEx showed up with my millionaire's pin. And I wanted you to know that I am now officially a millionaire. And I just want you to know something that's real important to me. In my whole life, you are the only human being who ever believed I had the ability to make something of myself. And now that I'm a millionaire, I just had to track you down and tell you that I really, really appreciate what you've done, and so does my daughter." And she was crying, and she hung up.
Wow.
And I got off the phone thinking, there's more to life. There are more adult report cards than money, and that's one of them right there. That was unequivocally the best thing that ever happened to me in my whole networking career.
Wow. And in our days in NuSkin, we were probably working in a company with, one of the hardest compensation plans to even do that in. And you've built some huge organizations, and I talked to Jerry about this too. I said, what do you think would be, don't you think it would be easier today? I mean, at a company like Essanté Organics, because, why? I mean, technology, here you all you have to do is build 2 legs, that's it, and you get 100% matching bonus, a matching bonus plan on the, a bonus check on anybody you personally bring into this company. Imagine what kind of checks can be made like that.
Well, it's almost a joke. It's almost like having a license to steal. I mean, give me a break. We had to do 12 frontline people, each doing $3,000 a month to get paid 6 levels. You talking about building 2 legs to get paid to infinity with 100% matching bonus? Are you nuts? I mean, there is no comparison. And part of the reason for that is because of the number of companies that have emerged over the last, say, 20 years, it's become increasingly important for companies to offer much more lucrative compensation plans. I mean, you and I both know back in the old days, and I know Angie will remember this too, just to get 5% on 6 levels, we had to have 12 frontline, personally sponsored people who were each doing $3,000 a month in open group retail volume. Then we had to do $3,000. So just to get paid a small percentage, I had to do $39,000 a month just to qualify. So obviously times have changed. Things are a lot more lucrative for a person with a good work ethic. No doubt about it.
Absolutely. And, we're going to go back into your book a little bit and talk about a couple things. What do you think is the biggest obstacle for people in this industry, and what insight can you offer them to get actually past that obstacle?
Well, I know what the biggest obstacle is, and we all do, those of us that are veterans in the industry, and that is just basically nobody likes to deal with disparaging comments or rejection. Now, the truth is, I don't understand the concept of rejection simply because in my 25 years in the industry, I've never been slapped by a woman or hit in the mouth or cussed out. I mean, I've had people say, no, thank you. I've had people say, what are you, one of those stupid pyramid deals? But I'll tell you what the biggest obstacle is, and this is the landmine that blows up a lot of careers. When people go out unprepared before they've been trained and they understand how to handle objections, and they go to their first 3 or 4 or 5 people that are friends or family, and all of them tell them they're a moron, they can't take it, and they walk away. But you know what? Let me tell you my analogy for our industry that people can really relate to. If I were to college recruiting people, and let's say I've got my table set up right next to Microsoft, and they're recruiting executives out of this MBA program, and I am too. And when they come to me, they sit down at the table and they tell me about your profession. I say, okay, here's what you're going to do. What you're going to do is you are going to go out every day and you're going to talk to 30 people, and they're all going to tell you you're an idiot. And the first month, that's all you're going to do. Once you have 25 people tell you you're an idiot, you're done for the day. The first month, I'm going to pay you $800. And then the second month, you're going to go out and talk to 25 people. 24 of them are going to say you're an idiot. One of them is going to say, wow, what do you got? And they're going to get involved in the business you're in. And the second month, I'm going to pay you $1,200. The third month, you do the same thing. I'm going to pay you $1,400. The fifth month, I'm going to pay you $1,600. I'm going to keep it at $1,600. All you're going to do is have 25 people tell you you're an idiot. One of them's going to tell you you're great. 24 are going to tell you you're an idiot. At the end of the year, I'm going to start paying you $50,000 a month. You're going to retire, and I'm going to pay you $50,000 for the rest of your life. You know how many people I'd recruit and how many people Microsoft wouldn't get anybody. I'd get them all. Right? Am I right? I mean, and I could use the same metaphor. I could use the same analogy, shoveling manure. Every day you're going to shovel manure, and I'm going to start you at $800. I'm going to take you at $1,200. But at the end of the year, and you're going to be amid the stench and the flies, and your hands are going to be calloused and bloody, and you're going to be on a flatbed truck going out of town shoveling manure all day. But at the end of the year, I'm going to pay you $50,000 to $75,000 a month for the rest of your life. You're never going to pick up a shovel again. People would say, how quick can I get on that truck?
Absolutely.
Sign me.
And I'll never forget that story, because that was what you said to me, is that, and you used this analogy, you told me you weren't going to pay me anything for 2 years, but at the end of 2 years, $50,000 a month for the rest of my entire life. How many days would you, every day, would you do it? And who wouldn't, right?
Yeah, you're all over that. So the biggest obstacle, new people that are listening to this call need to understand. So what if you're told you're a moron 4 or 5 times a month? Who cares? Most people suffer from delusions that aren't true. You know, the stereotypical biases people have against our industry are based on totally irrational garbage. The truth of the matter, I hear this all the time, Michael. Well, it's one of those pyramids. Yeah, what isn't? Flip over a dollar bill. There's a pyramid on the back of it. Why? Because even the founders of the U.S. Mint understood the best structure in capitalism is a pyramid. The difference is, in the Microsoft pyramid, you got one guy sitting on top worth $60 billion. Can't nobody make that much money. You go down one level, you got 12 people that are members of a board, chancellors. That they're all worth about $450 million to $800 million. Go down another level, you got 39 people, and you keep going down till you got the janitors and the software designers and the very base of the pyramid is a whole bunch of people who are never going to make it to Gates' position. In our pyramid, you start at the top of your own and fill in the bottom by elevating other people. You can't win unless you help a whole bunch of other people win. So what you need to understand is the biggest cause of failure is people who succumb to the stereotypical red flag delusions that the masses of people use just to argue against our industry. Those are not true realities. When people say to me, Michael, well, is this one of those pyramid deals? Now, I'm to the point now where all I want to do is jack with people and have fun when I hear it. The average new person won't have the courage to do this. But if somebody says to me, is this one of those pyramid deals? I say, yeah, and we're going to do time. We're going to do time. It's illegal. We're going to do some jail time. And I get the same response you just gave me. They laugh. They say, what? I say, yeah, we're going to do jail time. But we've cut a deal with the Federal Trade Commission. They're going to let us out in 2 years on good behavior. And before they put us away, we're going to have $8 million in an offshore account in Isle of Man. So, and I actually had a stockbroker in Atlanta one time listen to all this. He said, wait a minute. It's a pyramid. I said, yeah, we're going to do time. He said, well, are you sure we'll only do 2 years? I said, my God, I'm only kidding. We're not going to do jail time. It's so stupid. So I think the biggest cause of failure is people just step on these landmines of irrational thinking. So you got to be prepared for people who have these stereotypical biases against the industry because they're wrong. Getting a good company, it's a great opportunity. That's my take on it.
Absolutely. And if you could give one piece of advice to a new person in this that just got involved in this industry, what would that be?
Well, I think the main thing is to understand it's a numbers game until people sign up, and it's a people's game. There is no substitute for the numbers game approach to any form of professional marketing. I know Angie will say this is a marketing expert. We all know this. And I was on the phone just recently with Tommy Hopkins talking about this very issue. What it really boils down to is if you're new at this business, you need to talk to as many people as you possibly can. Now, you might only start out and have the courage to talk to 1 or 2 people a day and then gradually work it up to 3 or 4. But the truth is, basically, your goal is not to persuade, cajole, manipulate, sell, close. Your job is to provide ground floor information about a company you love and believe in that's good for the ecology and good for the planet to as many people as will listen. And the good people are going to get involved. But you don't have to worry about anything other than presenting your company to as many people as possible and letting the cards fall where they may. The right people will do it. The other advice I give people all the time is remember, about half the population is just not cognitively hardwired to be an entrepreneur. So if you talk to 10 people and 5 of them say no, that's because they can't do it and they don't know they can't do it. So don't worry about it. Just treat it like a numbers game. talk to as many people as you can, give them the opportunity, give them the information to do their due diligence on. Then, when they sign up, it becomes a people game. Then it's about support, it's about holding their hand, talking to people with them, doing three-way calling, etc. It's a numbers game, first and foremost. That's critical.
Absolutely. And if you go to the other side of the coin, say if you could give one piece of advice to a seasoned networker, what do you think that would be?
Well, it all depends on whether they're making money or not. But a lot of times, this may be the only industry in the world where a guy fails at 10 deals and then writes a book. This is the craziest industry I've ever seen. And the only problem with network marketing is a lot of people begin to have this sense of entitlement before they're ever even making any real money. I get calls all the time from people who've been in the business a lot of years and they're not making any money, and it's always just a question of pointing them back in the direction of the initial days where they were actually talking to people. A lot of times people think that it'll just magically create wealth to join a company, and it doesn't. You've got to work at it. You've got to talk to a lot of people. So what I tell seasoned people is, what worked for you initially, go back to it. Don't worry about becoming proficient if you're an older guy in technology, for example. Let the digital natives do technology. Where you made your money was talking to other human beings face-to-face or on the telephone. So don't worry about mastering Twitter. Don't worry about Facebook if you don't like technology. Go back and talk to people. A lot of times you just have to take seasoned veterans and put them back on the path that got them to the money in the first place because they've gotten sidetracked.
Right. And what do you think is the number one thing that you could tell anybody to how to overcome their fears?
Well, I think there's only one way. Well, that's not true. First of all, I would say carve out 30 minutes a day to read positive, uplifting information that is designed and calculated to make you feel good. Number two, soundtrack your life. This is the best advice I give all the time. If you don't soundtrack your own life, somebody else will. And what I mean by that is, our brain on music is like our brain on opiates. It's amazing what it does to the dopamine levels, the serotonin. There was a time in everybody's life, and I don't know when it was in everybody's on this call, but for me it was like there were some teenagers that were a ball. And it's so wonderful now to have the technology today where you can actually get an iPod Nano, and you can go into iTunes and buy, say, your 200 favorite songs. The songs that made you happy at any point in your life where you were happy. And everybody responds to music. So what I always say to people is, if you want to overcome your fear, first of all, soundtrack your life. Before you get on the phone and make calls, listen to 2 or 3 songs that are designed to rev you up, that have an emotional impact on you. Because if you don't soundtrack your own life, you're going to get on an elevator at the doctor's office and you're going to hear some BS Muzak song and you're going to be singing that for the rest of the day, and it's not going to do you any good. Everybody's got a music thing. You know this, Michael, you're a good musician. People have these songs repetitively rolling around in their brains. Why not put in music that stimulates us because it makes us feel good? So I'm the same. If I'm getting ready to do a talk with somebody or I'm getting ready to prospect somebody, I'm going to get on my iPod and I'm going to crank up my headset and I'm going to listen to something that uplifts me. It may be the Moody Blues. It might even be, Thrill. It might be Billie Jean. I love that beat on that Jackson song, Billie Jean. But it may also be, Are You Going to California? Wear Flowers in Your Hair. I love that song. But whatever makes me in a good mood, I soundtrack my life before I ever do prospecting or get on the phone or talk to people. So that's advice I would give you. You overcome your fear by programming your brain in a positive way. Now, the other thing is, if it becomes repetitive, it becomes habitual. If you do it long enough to make it a habit, it will become a normal part of your life. This whole fear of talking to people, my God, I turn green with envy when I think of all of our relatives. There isn't one person on this call tonight whose great-great-great-grandparents didn't come to this country either with a gun pointed at their head on a boat against their will, or they climbed on a boat somewhere over in Europe with a bag of pinto beans and a rocker that was half broken, and they came over here to make a new life for their family. the sacrifices they make. We're not asking people to climb in a wooden wheel wagon train and go from Paoli, Pennsylvania to Sacramento amidst the bears and the rattlesnakes and the arrows and what we're saying is, gee, do you think you could talk to 10 people a day in order to earn $1 million a year?
Right.
Gee, could you have the guts to do that? Do you know what our great-great-great-grandparents that sacrificed everything to get us over here, to give us this opportunity, would have thought if all they had to do was talk to 20 people a day to make $1 million a year? Why, they'd have been laughing all the way to the bank the first year.
Yeah, it's funny, people talk about a great restaurant, a good movie, and everything else, but when it comes to what they're doing from a business standpoint, if they're in this industry, they just freeze.
Well, it's unbelievable, and it's because they haven't repeated it enough. One of the things you'll discover is this repetition is an amazing thing. If you'll force yourself to talk to 5, 10 people a day for 90 days, 5 days a week, you can take off Saturday and Sunday, but if you force yourself to do that, what'll happen is that activity will become habitual. Once it becomes habitual, and once you realize you're not going to get shot in the head by somebody by asking them if they want to make $100,000 a month or $50,000 a month, this rejection thing's all nonsense. It's not a big deal. And after 90 days, it'll become habitual. Once it becomes a habit, you'll literally feel off if you don't talk to those 10 or 20 people a day. It'll become a habit.
Right, exactly.
Sure.
Do you think it's best to call, to email, Facebook, text, or meet someone to share? What do you think is the best? Discuss, your order of importance.
I don't really think. Let me put you this way. Richard Call told me once. He said, Mark, it's all a numbers game. And he said, let me tell you what you could do to get rich in NuSkin. He said, I'll never forget this. He said, you can take a roll of 2-ply toilet paper and pull those squares off. 2-ply. And just take a magic marker and write on 30 squares of 2-ply toilet paper, I've got a new ground floor pyramid deal and a phone number. And he said, if you hand out that 2-ply toilet paper with that message 30 people a day in a year, you'll be making $100,000 a month. And I said, Richard, I think you're off the deep end. I think you're emotionally certifiable. That would never work. He said, no, it will. It really wouldn't matter what system you used as long as you communicated with 30 other people 5 days a week. Because he said you're talking to 600 people a month, 95% of them don't do it, worst case scenario, that's 570. 30 of them will. If 29 of them quit, you wind up with 12 frontline. At the end of the year, it's impossible in NuSkin to make under $100,000 a month, 12 good frontline. Well, imagine with 12 people going down 2 legs in your company. I mean, it's a joke. So
and matching their paycheck for every guy that you bring in.
It's like insane. Or you kids like going down the street and having your wife say, honey, excuse me, but is that a bag of money over there? Should we stop and pick up that bag of free money? No, I'm going to pass on it. But, honey, there are $100 bills poking out the top. Nah, there's got to be a trick. Honey, please stop the car. It's a bag of free money. Nah, let's go on. I want to get to the Dairy Queen.
And here's a good one that I got to ask you, because you taught me something that I never thought about, and I do come across this. You know what? I got these people that go, I don't know anybody anymore. I can't take it to my friends. And you taught me something tonight, or not tonight, but in the last few months, that I never even thought about. It made so much sense. And
friends, family, that's the biggest lie there is. Okay, first of all, you can count your friends and family on your fingers and toes if you're lucky.
Right.
Which means if you're doing this business right, you're out of prospects in 4 days anyway. Now, here's what I've learned about friends and family. When you get to $50,000 a month, well, no, forget 50. When you get to $20,000 a month, your friends and family are going to join us. They're going to join your company like rats going off a sinking ship. You won't be able to keep them out of your front door. They'll hear, oh my God, Nancy's making, did you hear she made $22,000 last month in that new company? You believe it? And they're going to be at your house begging you. Why do a Hulk Hogan smackdown on Aunt Mildred the first week? Your friends and family are going to join anyway. It's your warm market is not your friends and family. Your warm market is the 30 to 50,000 people who will warm up to you the minute you call them because they know you've got something, an affinity, something in common. So, for example, I'm a paraglide instructor. So what do? Well, a few years back, I went to the United States Hang Gliding Association, USHGA, and I got a list of 34,000 paraglide and hang glide pilots in North America. So let's say that I see Michael's name on there, and I call Winnegar. I say, hey, Michael, my name's Mark Yarnell. I'm a paraglide instructor up here in British Columbia. You still flying? Boom, instant rapport. Why? Because he's a paraglider. He doesn't say to me, where'd you get my name? It's, oh yeah, far out, I'm still paragliding. Great, I want to know what kind of wing you're using and everything. First, let me ask you a question. Well, no, forget the question. This is going to sound crazy, and I want to talk to you about your wing and your paragliding. I want to tell you about the thermals I've been getting up here in British Columbia this summer. It's just been kick butt. We have flown cross country every day. It's been unbelievable. But listen, this is going to sound insane, Michael, but we have found a way for paraglide pilots to make $30,000 to $50,000 a month and fly 5 days a week. Grab a pen. I got to give you some information. You're not going to believe it. You know what these people say? Oh, no kidding. 30 to 50,000 a month. Yeah, and we're flying 5 days a week. Well, listen, write this website down. Boom, they write it down. Now, everybody on this call tonight has got a warm market of 30 to 50,000 people with something in common. And the more they can narrow that market down, the quicker they're going to build an affinity with the person when they contact them. I love these people. What drives me nuts about MLM, the first thing people do, as if they're geniuses, when they first sign up in MLM, they go rushing out and they get a list of realtors and insurance salesmen and genealogy reports from defunct companies. And they start calling them, as does every other one of the 5 million new distributors every 2 years in network marketing. You don't go after those groups. You find groups of people that have something in common. A group of people, I don't care if it's a mountain climber who has American Express card platinum or a dentist that takes golfing vacations. Data mining, Michael, as you and I both know, is so easy today. You can go to SRDS or WS Ponton on the internet, and you can get list brokers to sell you for pennies names and phone numbers of people. You just call them and identify who you are, tell them what your commonality is, and tell them you found a way for people like, I found a way for boating enthusiasts who take boating vacations and have yachts to make $30,000 to $50,000 a month and boat every day. Grab a pen. I want to give you some information. No kidding. See, it's instant rapport. That's your warm market, not your friends and family. They're going to join anyway, unless you beat them up in week one.
Right. And we all know it, and then once we get these people in, we got to teach them how to gather and grow. And what do you think the best thing to do to have a successful meeting so everybody can do it? And what do you think is the worst thing they can do that can actually sabotage the meeting that they can avoid doing those things?
Well, I got to be honest with you. I just never, I don't think you can do a bad meeting as long as you're honest and credible with people. When you got a good product and a good company and you're in at the very ground floor stage, where's the objection? People say, what, an aunt with a garage full of crap because she joined Amway years ago. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but, that's not really relevant to what we're talking about tonight. I think the key is, you put people in your living room or you sit down in their living room who are open and receptive to a financial opportunity. You tell them the truth. I don't really care if somebody there is negative, because I can have more fun at that point if somebody wants to really show their cards and be in the, but I think it really doesn't matter, and this is the one message I always try to get across to people. Just do it. Just do it. Don't worry about it. You're going to encounter everything. I'm telling you, if I wrote a motto for every MLM company, let's say instead of golden arches like McDonald's, I was hired and they were going to put a golden arch over the corporate home office of every MLM company based on my experience with field leaders, and I was called and I was paid to design a motto for our industry, to go on the golden arch in the entryway of every MLM company. It would simply say, abandon all common sense, ye who enter here. And it's because I don't know why this is true, but there's something about network marketing that brings out the stupidest stuff I've ever seen in my life in other people. You got to be prepared for that. Flow with it. There's nothing you can do to prevent people from making silly comments, having just hold the meetings, do the meetings, and deal with what comes up. Just remember, nobody is going to pull out a switchblade and cut your throat because you're trying to get them to $30,000 a month. Nothing bad's going to happen. Do the meetings, sit in the living room, talk to as many people as you can. Don't worry about the outcome. In a year, you're rich.
Exactly. And what do you think? Tell me your biggest setback, or what would be your darkest time in this industry, and how do you maintain your enthusiasm, your perseverance, your positive attitude? What do you do to get through all that?
I called up line every time something maniac happened, and it always does. I mean, there were times when I was depressed, and I called and I said, this is crazy. This is a scam. I'm never going to make the big money. And then, I tell you the thing that upset me the most is when I learned that it doesn't matter how much your downline's making, they can still quit. I had a guy making $120,000 a month walk away and quit. I'm serious. He was called by a flim-flam company out of New York that wanted it. In fact, I'll tell you, I don't want to put anybody down, but I mean, basically, it was a guy on my front line making $128,000 the last month he was in the company. They played his ego. They said, we're going to make you president of the company. We're going to give you master distributorship. It's your turn to win. How dare you stay in NuSkin? You've already made your money. It's time to be on top. So here's this guy walks away from that shook the confidence of everybody in his organization. He was one of my two biggest players. And it was like a problem. Then another time we had a guy go on TV from Michigan running for Attorney General. I'll never forget a guy named Frank Kelly. And just when we were making the big money, he goes on national TV. Now imagine this, Michael, because this is going to happen. There's always a baptism by fire in a new company. You won't escape it, and you know this. The better you get at building your company, the more likely things will happen along the way, and it's your ability to overcome those obstacles that make you successful. In NuSkin's case, we've got Ted Koppel's Nightline on, and worst of all, Barbara Walters is filling in for Ted Koppel because he's got the flu. So you can imagine everybody watching Nightline with Barbara Walters, and here is the Attorney General of Michigan on national TV when we're at the height of our growth in NuSkin, saying to a national audience, the first thing I'm going to do when I'm reelected as Attorney General of Michigan is put NuSkin out of business because they are an illegal pyramid scheme. And he held up a picture of our breakaway company and said, see, it even looks like a pyramid. Well, guess what? 60% of my check went away in 30 days. 30 days. Everybody was quitting. Everybody was embarrassed. They were telling their friends, oh, my God, how could you have gotten me in a flim-flam? Did you see that attorney general? It was a nightmare. But guess what? And I called Richard, and I said, well, we're screwed. He said, no, we're not. We're just going to stay with the company and build it back. We know it's not a pyramid. We know that's crap. That was a I said, Richard, Frank Kelly just said this on national TV on Ted Koppel's Night. He said, so? What are you, a sissy? No big deal. We'll build it back. So I didn't quit, but I was despondent. What do you do when your check gets cut by 50 to 60% in actually it was a month and a half. The second check was down 60%. But I didn't quit because my upline told me, don't worry about it. It'll be fine. We'll build back. We know we're not crooks, no matter how they portrayed us. And sure enough, when he was reelected, he printed a retraction in USA Today. I'm sorry, NuSkin is a good corporate citizen. I was wrong. But by then, I'd already lost half my downline.
I was there. I did exactly the same thing. And you know what really got to me was that now, we went out there and we just built through it. And I was just like you. And I said to Jerry, oh, my gosh. And he's like, said exactly the same thing. Don't worry about it, Mike. We're going to make this thing happen, and this and that and everything. And it's so funny because the guys now that, when we look back, you and myself, here we sit with, a life that we've cascaded, we've built and painted this any picture we wanted because we were at the right place at the right time. And those people that quit, they're still right now, guys. I know, going from job to job to job to job, just hating life. You know what I mean?
Oh, sure. We just built it back. It was no big deal. So, I mean, what I always tell people is you're going to have those black times. You're going to have those tough times. It's inevitable. In fact, I would say the better your company does as you're growing, and the more likely you'll face the arrows and the things that come at you. And then eventually you'll become recognized as the good corporate citizen that you are. But, I mean, there will be some tough times, and that's just a symptom of growing pains. Big deal. You just don't quit.
Yeah.
Those are the three magic words. Just don't quit. I see so many people. You can't better yourself by jumping around from company to company to company. Just don't quit.
That's it. That's it. And you had to motivate yourself, and so did your wife to take daily action. And how did you each accomplish that one important thing?
Well, we just realized the importance of focus. It's like I'm like an old Missouri plow mule. I put on blinders, and nobody can in any way divert my attention. And when somebody calls, I think this is the best advice I can give everybody on the call tonight. There will be people that will call you, and they'll offer you the moon. There will be people that will want to play doctor with you. I'll show you mine if you show me yours. Don't do that. It's a total waste of time. It's a total drain of energy. What we knew going in of all, I've done 3 deals in 25 years, and I've always had the same mindset, and that's this. I'm only paid to do 2 things. By the way, a professional is somebody who gets paid, and an amateur is somebody who does the same thing, doesn't get paid, right? So I don't mean to be disparaging when I call people amateurs, but unless I'm mistaken, you and Angie, I mean, your company is like every other, am I right? They pay you're paying your people to recruit and retail products.
Right.
Right? Let me ask you a question. Do you pay them to watch Oprah?
What's that?
Do you pay them to watch Oprah?
No.
Do you pay them to walk the dog? Is there any way they can make money comparing your comp plan to other comp plans and looking at other deals? No, you pay them to recruit and retail, am I right?
That's right.
Okay, so anybody who's on this call, if you're not in the process of trying to recruit a new person or retail products to other people, you're an amateur. Now, that doesn't mean, I don't mean that in a disparaging way. It just means you're not getting paid. Because Winnegar ain't going to pay you to walk the dog. Or surf the net. Or send out Facebook updates. The bottom line, unless it relates specifically to recruiting or retailing. So, I've just always been unilaterally focused on how many people can I introduce to this industry and how many products can I sell, and nothing else matters. And if somebody says to me, I want you to look at this other deal, you know what I say to them? I'm not money motivated. You could transfer $1 billion to my checking account tomorrow, and I'm not walking away from what I'm doing. So it doesn't do any good for us to look at it. You got any other reason why I should switch companies? Because money isn't going to do it. Well, no. Okay, fine. We got nothing to talk about. God bless you. Have a great time. Click. So we've built by staying unilaterally focused on one thing and not getting sidetracked by all the distractions in life. That's the way I'd put it.
And I don't think either, you know what, I think we all focused on the one thing that we were doing. I've never seen yet, and even Jerry said, the person, he says, if you're a fox and you're trying to chase, and you want to catch a rabbit, and you're out there chasing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rabbits, you're never going to catch a rabbit. So this idea of, being in multiple things at one time.
Oh, that's all crap. The people that are promoting multiple streams of income have never built an MLM deal legitimately. I mean, come on. There are best-selling authors who are trying to sell books by talking about garbage like multiple streams of income. That's all just crap. When you narrow it down, what you discover is none of those people have ever built anything. I remember when I got a phone call on the Trump Network. Now, I happen to know Donald Trump because we were at a book signing together at Unicorn Books in Aspen, Colorado. After his Art of the Deal came out and my book, Power Speaking, we were booked to accidentally. It was a mother-daughter that owned this Unicorn Books. And the daughter booked Donald Trump for a book signing Saturday morning, and the mother booked me, and they didn't realize that there was a conflict. So we both showed up. Well, it had snowed a foot the night before, and the sun was out. I think Donald sold 1 book. I didn't sell any. I mean, everybody was out skiing. They didn't want to buy books. So I had several hours just sit and talk to this guy. Well, he's not a networker. So I get a phone call about a year and a half ago from somebody, Yarnell, Trump wants you to come up to New York and sit down at the boardroom and talk about the Trump Network. We're going to build a dynasty. I said, Not Donald Trump in Manhattan, is it? The guy? No. Yeah, Donald Trump, the stud, the guy, the big realtor. I said, well, he's never built anything. He's got some real pretty helicopters and wonderful buildings in Manhattan, and I would really trust him to run a casino or sell vodka or mattresses, and I've got a belt that he endorsed. But to my knowledge, Donald Trump's never done MLM. Why would I follow him? Don't you know how big his name is? I said, well, his name's got nothing to do with it. You put me in a company with somebody who's got experience in building a network. Bottom line, you got to have people with experience, is what I'm saying. And I think you know that, too.
Absolutely. Just focus. I think focus is the most important thing a person can actually do. And, the only time I've ever seen anybody, like Gary was saying, the only time he goes that I've seen everybody, where do you find an unsuccessful networker is a guy who's never stayed in long enough to create success.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, if you're not going to do this for 3 years, don't even sign up. Bottom line, if you're going to get in a company, you better give it 36 months because it's going to take you 36 months to even know that and master that company. But the people jump around like jumping beans. You can't go from deal to deal to deal to deal. It doesn't work that way. You find the product you believe in because it makes the world a better place. And the ownership hopefully has been in the business a long time like Michael. They understand professional corporate governance in our field, not in, downtown apartment complexes. They know network marketing. And then you make a decision. I'm going to do this for the next 36 months minimum before I ever consider my other options. And whatever you do, don't try to do two at the same time. Multiple streams of income are a joke. They do not work. It takes too much effort to build one organization in network marketing. You're like a carnival barker. Oh, Bob, you don't like what I've got up this sleeve? Let me show you what I got over here.
Right.
You're not even taken seriously. You're like selling Aunt Maud's elixir out of the back of a wagon train. It's goofy. No, just do one at a time. Do it for 3 years. That's the best advice I can give everybody.
Absolutely. So, we've had you on quite some time now. We're towards the end. And I want to just thank you so much. It just means the world to me to have you on, and it's a pinnacle in my career, and it's unbelievable, and I'm still pinching myself to make sure I'm still alive to have you on a call with us. And if there's any last words you can tell anybody here about Essanté Organics and the opportunity posed in front of them right now, what would that be?
Well, what I would say wouldn't be about Essanté, it'd be about you. I always pin my wagon to a star. My decisions have always been based on the relationships to the people who are running the deal rather than the company, the product, and all that. Everything can change in terms of material things, but relationships don't. And what I would say to your people is, the reason I'm on this call is because I've had occasion to call Michael when I needed help. Now, I'm a veteran of this industry, but not long ago I needed some really important professional advice from a guy in the know. And I got on the phone, and I called Michael, and Michael spent 30 minutes unselfishly unraveling a very significant problem. Why? Because he knows what he's doing. So what I would say is you've hitched your wagon to a star, ride it to the moon. That's my theory.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again so much, Mark, and God bless you. And I'm really glad you came on and spent some time with us, and maybe again another time. And I'm going to open up the lines. I want everybody to be able to say good night to Mark, and thank you so much. God bless everybody on this call.